Welcome back to the podcast. So this week, another short edition this week, which we're going to cover off time management strategies and how you can utilize your time more effectively. And I'm going to share a few ideas and bits of information that might be helpful for you when it comes to that. But I wanted to also just say a big thank you to anyone that's listening to give me your time. The podcast, we're now getting hundreds and hundreds of downloads per month and people listening to the podcast. So I want to say a big thank you to you for doing that. You've without you guys as listeners, the podcast is nothing. I started it with the intention to help grow and support and inspire people to achieve their success they want to. And I'm getting some great messages, having some great conversations with people that say this in helping them do that. So thank you. I appreciate that. And the fact is making an impact for you is exactly what I want. Please do let me know if there's subjects for me to cover as well. I'm always happy to cover subjects on the podcast that can help you. But so look, what I want to talk a little bit about is about time management and about why that's important. So I want to share the story first before I do that of a guy that used to work in my business called Rob. And in my previous business was a software company, and we had a guy called Rob, and he probably isn't listening to this. He may not ever listen to this, but if he does, hey Rob, it's you I'm talking to. And Rob was a really interesting guy. He was quite quiet and a guy that was one of our developers, and would generally not really come into the office much earlier than sort of 8:30, and he'd pretty much leave always at 5:30. But Rob was one of the most productive people I've ever met in my business career. And to the extent where when we were doing some development for the software, and Rob used to say to me, it'll be done by Thursday, I knew he was cast iron. I knew that the project that he was working on would then be delivered by next Thursday. It was done because he was incredibly productive with his time. So whereas there's other people in the team that would, and there was I can remember a couple of other developers that would sit and have a chat and have a coffee and try and chat to other people, and then lunch period went on for a bit extra time. We were quite laid back around that in the office. Rob was really focused. He'd have to be polite and re-engaging, but he would just be really, really productive with his time. And even though he didn't stay on past 5:30 in the evening, I didn't need him to do that because he focused his 6 to 8 hours on getting great work done. And one of the biggest reasons that's stopping you from achieving success, and it's the same for me, by the way, I am still in this game of learning around this area because I think it's probably one of the, if I was to hold myself up to the mirror and say, what is stopping you from achieving the success you want to, James? Invariably, it's more around being more productive with the time that I have and the time management I have. And I think if you can become uber productive with time management, then it's going to help you get more done and achieve more. And there's some good examples that I wanted just to share with you that I think can help you as part of this process. So point number one is time blocks. So what do I mean by time blocks? So one of the things I've implemented with my team, especially with my marketing manager, Abby, who there's lots of things that I want to do with my business and grow, from a marketing perspective. And one of the things I encourage her to do, and actually, by the way, this could be useful for Darren, who's my podcaster. He's always asking these questions, so I'm going to share with him this story around podcasting about time blocking today. So what I say to Abby is I gave Abby 6, basically, and I'd use this in my own business, 6 areas I want to focus on for that member of the team. And so, for example, in marketing, it's YouTube and podcasting. It can be graphics and images. It can be social media. It can be SEO and the website. So I give 6, if you like, categories. And what I then do is I encourage her to look at her diary and put in the diary a time block of minimum 30 minutes, ideally an hour. And what I will do is I will say to her, I want you to put in place 5, ideally 5, but maybe if it's minimum 3, slots of 60 minutes each day where you are going to focus a time block on an activity. And what we do is we look at our goals as a company and we'll say, right, if our goal as a company is to, in the next quarter, generate leads, then what I'll do, because I'll say, okay, what we need to do is generate leads. We might need to do a campaign, in which case then that becomes our priority. Now, the time what we might spend on that campaign is important, but we can't also forget that we have to do some of the work that will not generate leads for us straight away, but will generate leads in time. So, for example, let's just say on a campaign, and let's say you're doing a campaign to generate leads, there could be 3 things of marketing that you might do over the course of that period of time to generate leads. The first one might be an outbound campaign with, let's say, an investment in digital marketing, so some Facebook ads or Google ads linked to a landing page and something. So that might be the first part of the campaign. The second part there might then be some social media that you're doing to support that. And the third one then might be some SEO, some blogging or some content you're creating, which isn't going to generate results straight away, but is going to generate results in time. And in time will hopefully mean you'll spend less on the digital marketing because you're getting leads naturally. So let's just say we've got those three categories. So what I will say to Abby is if she's got, let's say, a time block for the week and we're spending 6 hours on that type of customer acquisition work, I will say to her, well, out of those 6 hours, 3 hours get spent on the stuff that's the pressing priority, the short-term priority, the things that are being done right now. So let's say the Google AdWords and the Facebook campaigns, the digital marketing campaigns might be 3 of those time blocks. But I also then encourage her to then say the medium-term things, which are, as I say, the social content and creating some other graphics and materials to use to support those campaigns, might be 2 of those time blocks. But I'm always encouraging her to make sure at least 1 hour of her time block that week, for 1 hour, is spent on the SEO stuff, the longer term things. And what I sort of try and do with that time block is to say to her, look, if we can picture the perfect day, and let's say the perfect day gives us 4 time blocks of 60 minutes. And by the way, Rob, my guy, was really good at doing this. But that's 4 sets of 60 minutes in your day. It may well be from 10 to 11, 11 till 12, 2 till 3, 3 till 4. I don't know, whatever works for you. Or it could even be from 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning, whatever works. You've got those hours of time. Identify, if you like, the overall things you want to do and try and do something that's got some short-term impact, some medium impact and some long-term impact. And then block that time in your diary and focus on that activity. So focus on that activity for that 1 hour. And Abby knows in my business that, I've told her, and we'll talk about this in a moment, to one of the things that she used to do is to eliminate distractions. But I've told her, if you're not available for that period of time to do calls, meetings, that's okay if you can focus that work on that in that time block for that 1 hour. So one of the things that she tries to then do is she tells other people to not disturb her. She basically is able to say, okay, for that 1 hour, I'm going to focus on one of the, and let's say one of the tasks might need 3 hours. Well, okay, you can't do it all in that time, but if you have 1 hour focused on it, you might be able to get some elements done. So focusing your time on one thing at a time, but on one area at a time for a set period of time is a great way to do that. And what I will then do is I'll review with her at the end of the week and say, okay, in an ideal week, we might have, let's say 5 days of working, and we might have 4 time blocks a day. So we've got 20 time blocks. So therefore, there's 20 hours of time. What do we want to spend that time on? And I might say, okay, we're going to spend, out of those 20 hours, we might spend 6 hours on our digital marketing. We might spend 4 hours on videos. And depending on the priorities, we might then spend 2 hours on events, for example. I don't know. But the point being is she can then put those time blocks into the diary, which link to the overall company goals. And if she's disciplined, which she is, she can turn away other distractions, say she's not available for other calls, and focus on doing those time blocks in that way. So time blocking is a really simple way to approach managing your time more effectively. I appreciate the way I've explained it is a little bit longer, but I encourage you to look at it. And by the way, your time block doesn't exist if it doesn't exist in your diary. So I can look at Abby's diary and see that she's actually put some time aside to do social media or time aside to do videos. And I will know for that period of time, not going to disturb her. So that's the first thing, time blocks. Point number 2 is around use of the time in the day. And I've mentioned in podcasts before that I'm a massive fan of Robin Sharma's The 5 a.m. Club. And he talks around, if you own your morning, you own your day. And the book's a really interesting read and listen. It's a guy basically who, it's a story of an entrepreneur who's a billionaire and an artist and an entrepreneur. But basically how he gets people into utilising their time more productively in the day. And he says that basically if you get up at 5 a.m. and he has these 20-20-20 rule, which is about focusing, and I'll share with you, some focus on some exercise, some meditation and some learning. And then if you then start to apply some metrics for 90 days, he talks about having one task for 90 minutes of time, you will be more productive. And if you remove the other distractions and get rid of those other elements, you can own your morning. And it's interesting because I remember reading an article somewhere that said Jeff Bezos likes to own his mornings. So he will try and do all the key things that he wants to do by 11 o'clock. And then he's into meetings and discussions with other people because they then, so if you like, can take up his time from that point onwards. So I really encourage you to think about owning your morning. I believe fundamentally that the 5 a.m. club is helping me become more productive. I'm getting up even earlier in the morning. I've get up at 5 a.m. a couple of times. I'm still on that journey, not quite there yet, but I think I've looked at my Whoop and my hours of waking normally are now showing between 5:15 and 5:20. So by the time, an example that was this morning, I'm recording today, but I was up at 5:15 this morning. I was in the gym for 5:45, and by 7 o'clock when I left to travel up to Oxford, I felt like I'd done some exercise for the day and done my meditation. So I felt good for where I was going to be. Now, I know kids and life is difficult, but just again talking to someone earlier on, they were saying actually that's the one time when the kids won't be up. 5 a.m. till 6:30 is when the kids won't be up. Maybe that's your time to be more productive. So look, time management strategy, definitely work that out. Now, Robert Sharma talks around people, the 5 a.m. club being your productive morning. It may well be that you're more productive in the evening, for example, and there are some people that are. For me personally, by 8-9 o'clock, when I'm working there, I'm not doing my best work. I'm a morning person, but you may well be a night owl, in which case then, fine. If you're a person that works better in the evening, then get up later and move your day forward in that point in time. So the key thing is find your golden time. What is the time of day where you're at your best, when you're at your highest, your most alert, the ability to do your best work? Find that time. And if it is the morning, go make that time for the morning. Then you can go to bed earlier in the evening. There's a guy I work with called Paul Griffiths at Green Hat. Paul goes to bed at 7 a.m. Goes to bed at 7 p.m. every night. And the reason being, because he gets up at 4 a.m. because he goes for activity and walking, and he's a avid fitness runner and a biker. So he spends the first 3 hours of the day exercising. That's his time. But it means he goes to bed normally, I would say, sort of between 7 and 8 p.m. That's what works for him. Find the time that works for you and go from there. So another time management technique to think about, and this is a great thing to be able to do, is to journal, but also journal with your plan for the week and the day. One of the things that people talk about a lot is if you literally wake up and they go, what am I going to do today? It becomes a bit like, well, that's where you start then getting distracted and focusing on other things. Whereas if you can the night before try and identify what are the top 2 or 3 things I want to try and get done that day, even if you can do one thing, what's the one thing I can do the next day I'm going to focus on in my, let's say, my 50-minute or 60-minute or 70 minutes of time, then it can actually be a great way in which you can motivate yourself and drive yourself to actually, if you like, know what you're going to get done. And there's a great quote from Bill Gates, and he says that people they overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I think a lot of the time we underestimate sometimes what we can do in a we maybe try to overestimate what we can do in a day, but actually what we can get done in a month. If you literally had, let's say for 45 minutes a day, you did a focus on one activity for 45 minutes and did that for, let's say, 25 times, even 30 times over a month, you'd be amazed at what you can actually achieve. So small key things, have a plan, link that plan to what it is you want to do. There's another great book by a guy called Gary Keller called The One Thing. And he says, what's the one thing you can do that makes everything else less necessary? Focus your time on that one thing you can do and make that your focus. And you'll be amazed, especially if you are disciplined to put other distractions away, as we talk about in a moment, you'll be able to be more productive, get more done that can help you make the impact or achieve the goals that you want to. So the key thing to diary management and time management is also not trying to multitask. I mean, I always joke with people and say, and my wife always says this to me, I'm a man, I can only do one thing at a time. And it's right, I can. And if I'm trying to listen to her whilst I'm watching a program or looking at something, generally I'm not doing either one very well. And a lot of the time people end up having, I think, too many things on their to-do list. There's 10 items on there and they might end up multitasking. So my biggest advice to you is to try and identify 1 or maybe 2 things that you can do that day and remove other distractions. And maybe, you maybe communicate, obviously if you're in a work environment, communicate to other people, to your boss or to co-workers and say, look, it's really important for our business or for our company that I get that job done or that task done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself away and I'm not going to be available to have calls and I'm not going to respond to emails as quickly because I'm going to focus on getting that task done. And you can then be in a position where you can get that one thing done rather than trying to focus on 7 or 8 things and do them badly. So try and identify what's the 1 or 2 things you're going to get done that day or maybe over the course of that week that if you put time and effort into will give you the most reward or have the most impact for your company, and focus on it. Make it part of that time block. Make it part of that real, I'm going to do, literally be focused on that activity. And one of the things I encourage you to do around that task element to it and then the diary, the time blocking is I will literally have an hour in the diary and I'll put my, I'll get my watch and I'll put my watch straight away, on the desk and I'll look at the time and I'll say, okay, if the time now is, is 10 to 1, okay, at 1 o'clock, I'm going to go to the loo, I'm going to get a glass of water, and then from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock, I'm going to focus my time and diary and my work on that activity. Now, for me, I like to have my headphones in. I'll listen to some bouncy music, some dancey music. It works for me. Or I'll have a podcast, not a podcast, a playlist for deep focus. But for that hour, I will focus on trying to get that task done or that activity done. And I will literally, I'll put a sign on my door saying don't disturb. I'll turn my phone off. I'll remove other distractions. I certainly turn off email. If I'm working on my PC, I'll turn off email. I'll turn off other apps. So I'll remove other distractions and try and focus on that one task. And I really encourage you to do that. Try and set that 1 hour of time in the diary to be able to then say, I'm going to get that task done. And then once you're done, and this is linked to a similar technique called the Pomodoro technique, which was Pomodoro is obviously tomato, created by a guy in Italy. Concept behind Pomodoro technique is 45 minutes and then get on to do something different for a period of time after that. But try and make sure that you block that time off for 60 minutes. Focus on that task, get that task done, and remove other distractions. Try and build that willpower to remove other distractions or to not do other things and not look at things and say, I'm going to just focus on this for 60 minutes. And you'll be amazed at the impact it has for you mentally as well as what it gets you to get done. So kind of final points just to finish off on this. The point number is the start point for this is also start small to make an impact. People say I'm not very good at focusing my time. I know totally, I'm with you on that. I can see, time gets focused on other areas. So what's a great way to do this? Start your time blocks in 15 minutes. Say, right, for the next 15 minutes, I'm just going to focus on this. And actually, most people, you can give 15 minutes to get one task done. The world's not going to end if you're not available for 15 minutes. So do 15 minutes, start small, and then build up. So maybe you can then go to 20 minutes, then maybe to 30, then up to 45. So start small to start building that chain. And one of the things that I look to do is I have an app on my phone, which I use, which basically enables me to record. It's called Reach It, and it enables me to record all of my mini goals that I do per day and per week. And I can then see the success I'm having. I'll just put in there. So one of my goals, for example, will be to make 3 new prospecting contacts per day. And it puts a task on there, and I have a time in my diary where I will prospect, and I will do that and to try and encourage and grow my network and grow my reach. That's an example of how I will literally be focused on a small activity. It takes me 15 minutes, but now I'm in a position as I get more and more comfortable doing it and more forgetted and I build up the habit. And by the way, if you want to know how long it takes you to create a habit, I'll tell you at the end of the podcast, but it's a bit longer than you think. But the reality is, once you build those habits up, they then start to become embedded in your life and enable you to achieve great things. And the final point around this, which I'm going to include is, and I've talked a little bit about it, and these devices, unfortunately, I'm holding up my phone right now if you're listening on the podcast. Phones, devices, PCs, whatever, are the biggest distractions for us. If you want to become a real ninja when it comes to time management, remove distractions, put your phone. There's a great guy I work with, Tom, who says, right, well, I'm in deep work, he's doing great work. He will put his phone on airplane mode. He turns it off. He doesn't want to be disturbed. I really encourage you to do the same thing. Remove those other distractions. Tell other people that you're not available. In an old company I used to wear a pink hat. And if I was wearing the pink hat, basically, it meant that I wasn't available to be able to do any work at that time, or people should know not to disturb me. And I used to say to people, unless the world's ending, you leave me alone. So really try and make sure you're focused on your time management. Really try and ensure that you're removing those distractions. Generally, most people can afford to not see you for an hour. If you can get something done in that time that's going to help you achieve a bigger goal, then it's worthwhile doing it. So look, those are my top strategies for time management. The best people in the world are productive. The reality is they are productive. They get more done with their time. The one thing that's the same for me and you and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all these people is we all have 24 hours in the day. So the reality is we've all got the same amount of time in the day, so there's nothing that stops me achieving what they could achieve. It's just that they maybe make use of their time more effectively. They're more productive rather than necessarily being in a position where they feel that they're getting stuff done, but we don't. And Thomas Edison, the creator of the light bulb, was all around how, there's a great quote that he talks around how it's not the output that, it's not the work hours that someone puts in, it's the output they achieve. And we've got to focus on being more productive, and we do that by managing our time more effectively. So I hope this has helped you and given you some insight, especially if you're in a sales situation and doing lots of sales activity. Make sure you're more productive with your time. Make some time, put some time aside for prospecting or following up or creating materials, whatever it is. Be disciplined around your time, especially those that are around outbound prospecting. It's the one thing I've known we have to continually do. If we do that regularly, we get better results. Try doing that. It's going to help you achieve what you want to and give you that path to success and happiness that you want. So look, I always finish the podcast with an inspirational story. So I just wanted to share the story of a guy called Jesse May. Jesse May was a man. He's a man from Bristol. He is a man from Bristol. And in 2023, he completed 12 challenges, and one each month to raise some money for a children's hospice that helped his cousins. So in January, for example, he climbed Mount Everest on a climbing wall. In February, he did a 31-mile ice skating marathon in Finland. In March, he did a Welsh triathlon. All the way through to September, he did a relay swim the length of the channel. In October, the Three Peaks Channel. In December, a bungee jump. He basically did a challenge in 2023, 12 challenges. Oh, I think that's brilliant. I'm a man that loves challenges. I'm looking at some of these challenges that Jesse May has done and thought, wow, what a great way to try and push yourself and achieve something and really, move the needle forward on what it is you do. He did that to raise money for a children's hospice, put himself into some very difficult positions there. But the result was, I believe he raised a significant amount of money and has inspired other people to get off their backside and to make stuff happen. And when we challenge ourselves, it's commonly known that our brain would progress, we grow and develop as humans. So use Jesse's example. What's the challenge that you can put in place that you can do that can encourage you to change? And just imagine the ripple effect that will have what you do and how it will affect other people around you that see what you're doing and think, wow, I can then follow similar suit. And we can all inspire each other to become better, fitter, healthier, and live more active and successful and more fulfilling lives. So that's the story for today, Jesse May. But that's the story about time management. I hope it's been useful for you. It's given you some insights into what you need to do to get the results you want. Thanks as ever for listening to the podcast. I'm absolutely honoured that you give me your ears for the podcast. And as ever, please subscribe to the channel, share it with others. Let's make sure we get lots of people getting great insights on a regular basis. But until next week, I'll see you then. Have a brilliant week and stay safe. Take care.